Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening or good morning, wherever you are. Another episode of Shakey's Cricketing Journeys, and I'm very happy to be joined by a lifelong friend of mine and current Scotland captain, one of probably Scotland's greatest ever batsmen, county cricketer for Durham, Northants. I'm very happy to be joined by Coetzer and MBE as well, sir.
Thank you, Kaz. What an absolute pleasure this is to come online and have a chat with you. Granted, we don't get the chance to see each other very often anymore, and it's always nice when I get to see that smile of yours, Shaky. You're always a smiley, positive looking person, and yeah, I'm sure we'll have a bit of fun today.
Yeah, no, definitely. I appreciate you coming on. I believe it was your daughter Gabriella's birthday yesterday, 3 years old. So was it just yourself, Sarah, and the kids in the back garden?
Yeah, so our eldest, Louisa, she's 6. So there was the two girls and my wife, Sarah. So we were out and about. The sun shone yesterday. It was probably the warmest day of this summer so far, or if we can class it summer yet. And yeah, we had a great day. The paddling pool came out, and the 20 trips in and out with warm buckets of water to try and take the sting off that icy cold water helped. But it was a good day. Can't complain.
Oh, I've been impressed. I've seen some of your videos that you posted a week or so ago, where you've been doing quite a lot of keeping fit in the garden, but your kids have been very much involved in the process. So the one that stuck with me in particular is you're on the trampoline and you're doing some weightlifting with the girls, and they seem to be quite enjoying that. So fair play. And then I see you've been doing some catching practice and some other bits and pieces. Excellent. You know, it's what we all need to see at times, such testing times. And just while we're on that subject, you know, obviously we're all in lockdown at the moment. How's it been for you and your family?
Yeah, look, I think the challenges are throughout for everyone. Not just us, obviously. So there's been a couple of nice things that have come out. There's been a silver lining. I've been able to spend the time with the kids, being able to try and do some exercise to keep them active and to keep me going as well. Some of those videos, there's quite a lot edited out, but I think the one clip on the trampoline, I was trying to effectively bench press Louisa, who was the older daughter, and the other one had her foot on my head. Which
yeah, that's what I quite liked, actually. Good honour.
So as much as I was trying to incorporate them so they would do a little bit of exercise or whatever they could, in the end, you can't get away from them, because as soon as I start to try and do something in the house, they're either climbing on top of me, underneath me, kicking me in the head. So that's them thinking, oh, this is great fun. While Daddy's trying to exercise, they get to kick and hit. Well, not really hit, but
they're probably making up for a lot of lost time, I'd imagine, because you're always away on tour for lengthy amounts of time. So this is, speaking across the board to so many different fathers and mothers that I've the odd conversation that I've had, everybody seems to be saying the same thing. As much as this is very sad times we're living through, and people have been dying, and it's awful. Families have been kind of united more, and it's great to hear that you've spent more time with your two daughters, and I'm sure it'll be a time that you look back on and you cherish.
Yeah, Shaky. Like a lot of us would have felt the same. Actually being able to spend some time with the kids has been great. They're probably getting sick of me now, actually.
Well, you're a big kid yourself, to be honest. So you're made for spending time with the kids. You're always clowning around.
Well, I do enjoy it. Whether it be in a trampoline or out and about, wherever we are, I'm a big kid at heart. But look, there's one thing out of all of this pandemic and everything with the virus is why does it take something like this before people start communicating a lot better? I've spoken to, and I'm exactly the same, I've spoken to my family far more in the last 6 weeks than I have done in probably 6 months, 8 months,
Mm-hmm.
So even I know you're doing this now, but we keep in touch as much as we can, but we really should keep in touch more. But
Mm-hmm.
Life drags you in places that that you're sometimes too busy, and you have to. So, like I said, silver lining, and it's almost taking a pandemic to make us not just speak a bit more, but it's actually great. It's great to be able to chat to your friends and catch up the way you really should do.
Well, I'm glad to hear it's had you know, you're getting you're taking the positives out of what is a tough time, and say just before we move into the cricketing stuff, Sarah's surviving having you around so much. She's not you know, put you in the shed yet. You're living okay.
Yeah, I mean that's clearly one of the challenges, isn't it? You know, because I spend quite a lot of my time away. Sarah gets into a really, I would say, economical routine that works well. As soon as I come home, I tear the place apart, and she's just like, "What is going on?" They'd normally be in bed at this time.
Yeah, I can imagine the kid routine. You've just ruffled that up the wrong way. You know, they're getting sweeties late at night, or
Yeah,
sitting on the sofa a bit too late, and she's just and they know daddy's home, so I'd imagine they just play that off against
yeah, all
mum.
the time.
So you need to behave, mate, because you don't want to get on the wrong side of the missus. That's not
Well, you know,
nice.
we all know who the boss is, don't we? And
That's
it's
best.
definitely not me.
It's best to keep it that way, mate. It's best to keep it that way. So great to hear. Lovely to hear about the family and hear that you're having a really blessed time together at home. But I want to now talk about how we met each other. I mean, you are now 36 years old. I'll be 36 years old this year, so you've got a couple of months on me. But I remember meeting you as a 11 or 12-year-old. You would have been 12, 11, 13, both, but in that kind of area. I think it was Loreto School, and you had arrived, and it was my first ever time going along to a Scotland under 13 kind of camp academy kind of thing, that they're bringing kind of the best crop together. And Pete Steindl was a coach, and you had arrived with your mother Megan. I'd arrived with my mother Asia, and it was all talk was all, that's Kyle Coetzer, that's Kyle Coetzer over there, that's Kyle Coetzer. And I'm going to be honest with you, I was a young, you know, I fancied myself a bit as a, you know, I liked the challenge, and I remember looking and thinking, so what if it's Kyle Coetzer? I'll see how good this guy is when we get in the nets. I'm just as good as he is. And from that moment on, we became very good friends. I always looked up to you. I always strived to compete with you as much as I could all through those kind of junior days. But I want to just touch with you on that time, like under 13s, under 15s, 17s, 19s, best time of your life. What's your memories of those days?
I can vaguely remember that day that you were mentioning. I think the fact that when we were younger, well, when I was younger, I didn't necessarily, I knew who you were, and I knew that you were a good player, and I always remember you sort of being the sort of challenge in terms of when you come to practice. Shaky, he's going to come at you. He always does. You know, he's quite aggressive. He wants to beat you at everything that he does. And the other thing I remember about you is you always had shoes that made noises off the floor. That's the one thing I always remember of you. Your shoes. I don't know how you did it.
Do you know what I think it was? I think it was the run up, because remember I used to have those little quick feet. I don't know if it was necessarily the shoes, but yeah, I used to get some good sound effects off the floor. For the listeners that don't know this, Kyle, you can definitely shed some light on this. That I once upon a time was the left arm over the wicket bowler, because people doubt me big time now. They're like, you never bowled.
Yeah, well, you were the bowler that everyone was, well, wanting to keep out. Basically, you were the one that you ran in, you shaped the ball, and you bowled at decent pace for that age. And you're always attacking the stumps, and the fact that you swung the ball in towards the right hander was just too much for a lot of people when we were growing up. And you're a competitor. You're the type of person that every captain wants on their side, and that's not any different in the game today. So yeah, we had some great times. Yeah, we went all the way back to staying. You know, we used to stay in the school at Merchiston for those under 13 comps. We used to stay at Fettes as well. and there was plenty of shenanigans that went on, wasn't there? I remember
Yeah,
people getting
well,
soaked with water, and
so I remember a game, Kyle, because obviously at Merchiston you used to play pitch side by side, and there was a game you were playing in a game on the other pitch for the North. I was playing against the East, and I think you got something like a 7 for that day, and I got 6, and all you could just keep hearing was the celebrations of Kyle's got another wicket. I think you might have got a hat trick because obviously back then you were an outstanding. I was an in-swinging bowler. You were an out-swinging bowler. But to think that back then, probably our bowling was like our most enjoyable part of our cricket. I mean, you went on to be one of, if not Scotland's most successful batsmen of all time, county cricketer, and your bowling days probably were few and far between. But back then, you were a tearaway quick.
Yeah, well, let's just think about what you said there. The fact that two of Scotland's, well, we say leading batsmen over the years, Shaky. I'm going to class you in there because you were a successful player when you were playing for Scotland.
Thank you.
Were bowlers really when we were growing up? Is that a bit frightening?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird.
Even looking at Callum, he was certainly a bowler because
he was a bowler.
When I first saw Callum bat, I actually thought he didn't know which way to hold the bat. So he's turned into possibly one of Scotland's finest ever players. He's leading ODI 100 maker, leading. I think he scored the most hundreds ever for Scotland as well. But yeah, look, they were crazy days, and I remember that day you mentioned about Murky, because ultimately the West was probably going to play the North in the final of that under-13 competition.
Mm-hmm.
And every time a wicket went down, I'm pretty sure you guys got off to a flyer because when we were playing South, they were about 50 for none, I reckon, before we took a wicket. And you had already been, everyone knows when Shaky's playing because you can hear him from an absolute mile off. So
Nothing's changed.
Celebration. So then it was back and forth. You would get a wicket, we would get a wicket, you would get a wicket, and ultimately it was like it was chaos. It was two crazy games going on at the same time. And did the team not get picked after those games in the shed?
Yeah, so the team got picked. Pete Steindl picked the team, and then I think the rivalry kind of mellowed a little bit because from that moment on we became teammates. Went to Ampleforth, had some fantastic. I'll never forget a knock you played against Essex on the main ground at Ampleforth, which was one of the first times I really started. Up until then, I'd seen you play, but I'd never. Hadn't seen that sheer class or that ability to play the ball off your legs, pull, got all these great shots you've got, but you hit a couple of sixes that day, and you I mean, I was in awe of you watching you that day as a kid, and it was kind of like put back in my box a little bit. That bloody hell, man, this guy is really, really good. Like I really need to, if I want to be as good as him, I need to up my game that bit more. But great memories. I played under your captaincy then. Under 17 European Championships. We went to the likes of Denmark.
That was a good trip.
That was a good trip. That was an excellent trip. We got up to semantics, sneaking out the hostel.
Out of all the things that has ever been thrown into people's beds and shenanigans that going on, jellyfish is certainly up there.
Oh yeah. There's some of the shit that we've done. God, when you look back, I do look back at some of the pranks, Kyle, and I think to myself, oh, I can't believe I did that. Some of the stuff like breaking into Juddy's room in Canada and throwing a bucket of water over him. That was pretending me and Richie pretending we were Tony Judd.
Did you just drop Richie into that one, did you?
Richie done. So when I threw the bucket over Tony Judd and I went to run out the room, Richie closed the door on me. The guy, he was meant to be with me in this prank. And the fear I had on me, but Juddy did get me back because the next day he brought out a Gatorade bottle. And he filled it up with what's that?
Wasabi, wasn't it?
Wasabi. And I was really thirsty, hot day in Canada, and I guzzled this, and the wasabi just hit me, and I collapsed, and he was just Juddy just, my Mitchie, right? Just laughing his head off. But yeah, no, great times. I mean, I've even had times. I remember when I came to stay with you in Aberdeen, came down for the weekend, and we would just float around Aberdeen and have some good times. Shared some good times with both your brothers as well, Stuart and Sean. Mm-hmm. And then we went to the Under-19 World Cup together. That was kind of a really, really great time. What's your memories of New Zealand? What stands out for you in New Zealand?
Oh, Ryan Nurse, maybe you'll remember
Ryan,
that. Right?
Ryan.
Um,
When he wanted to use my clipper on
yeah,
his beard, and I was no thanks, mate. He had his skin wasn't looking the best at that point.
that tour. Oh, that was that. I think that started the love of New Zealand for me. Yeah, New Zealand, what an amazing country. Um, First of all, we went to Tasmania first, didn't we? And I remember that was my first experience of that kind of time difference. And Mike Hendrick and Willie Morton were busy trying to keep us awake, weren't they, at the
That's
dinner
right.
table? And guys were almost falling asleep into their food.
Monty fell asleep in his food, didn't he?
Yeah,
Me and you were rooming. We're rooming
yeah,
together.
yeah.
And I think Mike Kendrick said, "Right, boys, you can go now." And
and you not bick your head? Was that not the
yeah,
first time you bicked your head?
I bicked my head. Monty bicked his head. Monty looked. He just had this little peanut head.
I remember we went across quite positive with quite a good cricket team. There's some good players in that team, but I do remember that you and Moni were probably a step ahead of where I certainly was, and I probably say that probably in an element of toughness, possibly that you guys were just a little bit more streetwise, and you were able to, both of you did all right, and well, considering in that tournament.
Considering we went for 400 plus on the first innings of the first game against the West Indies, that was an eye opener that day.
I looked at those scorecards recently. I was asked about this the other day, and our game that we beat Kenya, I'm pretty sure it was Kenya. You were 30 odd not out, I think, in that game.
We put Moni, but Moni got put in at number 3, and he got 60.
That's right.
And then we had games against the West Indies game. We were pretty. I think I got maybe 40 against the West Indies.
Can I just roll us back just a little bit there? Let's think about the qualifier going into to make it to that tournament, which was a hard fought tournament. It was cutthroat because only one team goes, and we played a final. Well, the final of that tournament against Ireland, and this is where I sort of, I was like, wow, the toughness that you had back then, because I remember those Irish guys were walking past, and then there were shoulder barges and on the square.
And the thing was, we were young. I mean, I would only have been just turned 16. You would only have been 16, so we were actually the youngest. And they had the likes of John Mooney, Niall O'Brien, William Porterfield, but me and you, we came together at the right time.
You must have had 20 odd to finish. I would have just been barely teens, but I think you were coming in sort of 5 or 6 or something then, and I think I must have been 7 or a bit further down the line. But that was the first time I went, wow, this is sort of what the Irish boys are about. They're sort of in your face, they're aggressive, and we managed to withstand that in a day, and that was one of the best, most satisfying victories I've probably ever had. I remember that because we were under cosh then, and we sort of pulled us through. I strongly think to this day I wouldn't have been able to do that. You would have at that age. I wasn't able.
No, appreciate you saying that. I think coming through in juniors, I was kind of had this thing where I could score runs. I could consistently score runs. Whereas I think at that point you were just a freak talent that on your day you would score. But I mean, where your game has evolved, and we'll come on to talk about. I mean, I've got your stats written down in front of me. They really, really excite me. But I appreciate your kind words, and it's really nice of you to say, because we shared some really special times. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go to another World Cup with you. I obviously went to the YCs and I left, and I think Mike Kendrick was a little bit upset with me. But I'll always look back at this time, and it was your father who potentially changed my whole career. I'd come back from the YCs. Mike Kendrick had kind of pushed me to the side and said, you're not going to the World Cup. I wasn't behaving the best. I was getting up to no good in my personal life. And I'll never forget it. I got a phone call one afternoon from Pete. And he said to me, what are you doing with yourself? And, you're a very good cricketer, and you shouldn't waste your talent, and why don't you go to South Africa with Kyle? And I'll give you support. I'll help you out where I can. And you know that, you look back at if your dad had not have done that, who knows if I'd went on to play for my country or achieve what I did. But we ended up going to South Africa together, and I met a great lady out there who's obviously still to this day somebody I'm very fond of, Karen Becker, who was kind of a close friend of your dad's. We stayed with Karen and our lovely daughter Jeanette, who again still somebody I stay in touch with. We played for the Western Province Academy, and we played for Cape Town Cricket Club. And yeah, I just want to talk to you about that time. We shared a garage together.
Yeah, we did. We did that. They were one of the finest, some of the finest cricketing memories. And look, we were training and we were playing, and we were also having a lot of fun too, weren't we? So, and that's that's something to point out, that although you want to be focused and you want to train and you want to get better, and you still got to enjoy your life. Life's for living, and I think we certainly did that around then, and it was important to do that. But it was also important when we were focusing on our game that we would train hard, and I felt we had a pretty good balance in there. He's probably ebbed and flowed a little bit at times.
No, you had a good balance. I was a little bit more. I mean, we had a fallout. I think it was midway through. It was 6 months we were out there, and we had a fallout because you were kind of questioning my dedication, which was a fair assessment looking back now. But at the time, I was thinking, get off my case, Kyle, man, stop annoying me. But you were very much a guy that will have fun when it's time to have fun, but when it's time to train, it's time to put the head down. It's time to put the head down. And there was maybe days where I couldn't be bothered, and you got a bit peeved off with me, and I didn't attend training a couple of times. And I look back now and just think, I wish I'd listened to you a little bit more back then. But you would have had every right to give me some grief. But yeah, we fell out a couple of times back then. But we always found our way back again. And we had some.
Of course, we would shake you. Look, a little falling out from anyone. We have that with all of our mates over the times, don't we? So a little falling out's never anything to really hold a grudge about. I think if you're going to in each other's space all the time, which we were
all the time,
in the same room, you're going to have little fallings out. I went across with Ian Brand the year before, and the same thing. Like, we stayed in the school and stayed in the same boarding house room. And same thing, you need your own space every now and then, but it was class. It was was Fraser Watts not there?
Yeah, Fraggle came out and stayed a month or so with us as well. Fraggle had a good influence on me as well, because he was a bit similar to yourself. He was probably a little bit even more into, like, you weren't that intense. You liked to have a lot of fun, but you liked to train hard. But Fraggle was like really intense. Like Shaky, we're going for a run today. I remember my birthday. And I just couldn't be bothered doing anything. And Fraggle got me out of the house, took me down to the field, and we did laps of Belleville. Yeah. He said, "Think how good you're going to feel, Shaky, when this is done." It was like army stuff. Just get it done, Shaky. Just get it done. So Fraggle had a good influence on me. But I mean, great memories. Bowling in the Newlands nets at the likes of Graham Smith, Herschel Gibbs, Ashwell Prince.
Still nicking them off back in those days.
I was getting a couple of them back. Then. That was probably when it was just. That was when the bowling days were just starting to come to an end, unfortunately. But yeah, I had some good memories in those nets. So yeah, that's just to give the listeners an idea of how far we go back. We practically spent most of our childhood together. But then we kind of parted ways. Probably not parted ways as in friendship, but your journey takes you down a different path. And at the age of 17. You signed for Durham. I went to London with the MCC Young Cricketers. So yeah, I want to talk to you about what it was like as a 17-year-old going to Durham. You were obviously tipped for big expectations on your shoulders.
I was terrified, to be honest. I for 2 winters previous to that, I think I went down to this cricket school that was run out of Findoon College in Sacriston. And Sacriston is a nice part. Some rough and ready people, I would say, people who are already grown up quite a lot compared to maybe myself, who was quite, I guess, a fortunate upbringing, and this is where that steeliness and hardness maybe came to me a bit later, I think, because I was, uh, given things growing up as a youngster. I was made to work for them, but I grew up in quite a fortunate household. And when I did go down to Durham, I was terrified. I was turning up to guys who are, the Northeast people, really, really friendly people, but they, quite intimidating. I thought, I couldn't understand what they're saying to start off with. And I turned up at Durham. I turned up at the ground, and there was a first-class game on. Durham were playing Glamorgan. Matt Maynard was batting. And about the fifth or sixth ball that I watched, because I was too scared to go along to the dressing room, because I didn't want to walk in and like, should I go there? I shouldn't. I was like, and I think back now, what was I doing? But I was terrified. I caught the train down a mile and I got off. And Steve Harmison hit Matt Maynard on the head, and I'm pretty sure he fell onto his stumps. And I remember thinking right there, oh my God, do I really want to do this? You see how fast he's bowling. So and then I did make my way up, and I was like a mute, honestly. Like didn't know who anyone was really. I knew a few of the senior players because of international cricket captain. That game I'm sure we've all played it a little bit, but and I was a bit starstruck seeing the likes of Neil Colleen and Harmison and the Pratts and the Benkenstein, Brown, all these people. So that was quite a frightening time, but and I don't think I maybe realised, like you say, I was an exciting young player and I was going down there. I don't think that maybe I felt the expectation that was maybe on me, which maybe helped. I don't know whether that expectation was there. I was just a young kid. I liked cricket, and I got asked to come down, so I was going to do it. One thing kind of just led to another. Without, obviously, I want to do well, but I never was like, I'm going to be a cricketer. It just kind of led to another thing, and I loved playing the game. And I found myself there amongst some people that I was absolutely terrified of.
Yeah, I mean, that I can see why you would be quite intimidated, because I mean, you had the likes of Michael Divenutu as well. Big and a big age difference between the likes of these guys and yourself, and you're coming from Scotland. That was always a challenge as well when you're coming from Scotland.
Yeah.
You always felt they didn't quite respect you. You had to really earn the respect when you went down there. Is it safe to say it maybe took you a couple of seasons before you really started finding your feet?
Yeah, probably. I had to live on my own to start off with. You to know what that was like, going down to the MCC. You had to, living on your own's something else. Although when I did go down, I think it must have been the next year Monib joined me, which was a help. I didn't know Monib that well, but I knew him well enough, and we had to sleep. Our beds were about a meter apart from each other for a whole year in a tiny little box room. But they were some amazing times, and it helped having Monib around. And as much as anything could go wrong when Monib was there, like he could set the house on fire. He would iron on white carpets, and they would leave black iron marks all over the place.
Oh my God! I bet you had some challenges getting them to be on time for a lot of the meet times as well.
Oh,
because as we know, Monib, you always tell Monib the meet time's an hour earlier than it actually is, because there's a chance he might turn up then at that time. Because as you know, Monib and his timekeeping. I mean, I think the last ever indoor session before we went to the Under-19 World Cup, he didn't turn up. If you remember, and Mike Hendrick loved Monib that much, and he was our kind of trump card with a leg spin that I think he was going no matter what. But if you'd maybe been somebody else at that point, I think Mike Hendrick would have just canned him, because
I do remember the chat going around our team, like, because we all got given blue pads, didn't we? Grey Nichols were nice enough to sponsor the whole team and gave us all blue pads, and they didn't give Monib his blue pads because they were worried he'd go street fighting with them on around Glasgow. But going back to, you said it took me probably a couple of years to settle in, and it certainly did. But the one thing that sort of stands out for me is you'd probably had a number of hundreds by that age. And my first ever 100 I ever scored at any age group, senior, junior, was in a Durham second team 11 game. I'd never scored one. And this was maybe the structure of the game in Scotland at the time, was you'd have to, in the north, you'd have to retire at 30, and then you'd have to retire at 50. And, we just weren't good enough at senior level to score hundreds back then. And you're young, so you're probably playing at like batting at 7 or 6 or something where you could get hundreds, but our size and stature probably didn't mean we could hit the boundaries in the long grass when I was playing at Stewart Park in Aberdeen before I even got to play at the first team ground at Stonywood. But I scored my first ever 100 in my first ever Durham second team game. I don't even know whether the Durham guys knew that I hadn't scored 100 before. And I was hit plumb in front, first ball to Luke Wright, a young Luke Wright, hit me plumb in front, must have been hitting middle halfway up. Given not out, I went on to score 150. I actually then went on to score 300s in 3 games.
Wow.
So this is the thing that you try and teach the youngsters, don't you? You try and say, look, just get yourself to 100. Once you get past that mark once, it gives you so much belief. And all of a sudden, then here they are, next one, the next one, the next one. So, it certainly took me a few years to bed in. And I wasn't a capable enough player when I went down there. But you had to learn fast. And living on your own is maybe one of the things that kind of teaches you how to grow up.
Yeah, toughens you up. No, that's awesome. But the fact that you got 100 in your first game, and then it just clicked from there, and then you went on to score many more. I want to touch on your first class stats. Now, I know you played a bit of Scotland I Cup stuff, but you never played that much compared to what you probably because of your county career. That there was always a question mark over if you were going to play for us or not, because you had the county maybe wanted you. So I think a lot of the time Scotland just kind of let you be, and that's where some controversy came down the line. But your first class, you scored 4,404 runs at an average of 30.37. You have 8 first class hundreds and you have 19 50s. That's pretty impressive stats, mate. What would you say is your most memorable first class 100?
There's two that probably stand out for me. Well, your first one's always special. So the first one was against Warwickshire, and I nicked a few through the slips and whatnot, and I was probably dropped here or there, but I managed to get to that 100, and that was a really special day. I remember I clipped one. Tahir was bowling, Seamer, I forget his first name, and he slipped one down the leg side. I clipped it off my hip, and it went for 4. And I've always been quite muted in terms of my celebrations, and I was that day because in my mind there's still more work to be done. You don't. So I always find it hard to get there a celebration, really out the box until look you've won the game. But that scored a double 100. 217 against Leicestershire for Northampton, and that was a special day because I remember the umpire. He probably shouldn't have said something, but he did. Steve O'Shaughnessy, great umpire, good guy, good fun, and I was on 170 or something like that, and I played a few loose shots, and he just sort of said to me when he walked past, he says, you might never get another shot at getting a double 100. I wouldn't throw it away if I was you. And some really, really wise words, and I was like, I always remember that. Switch back on, and knock my way to 100. And it was actually against Rob Taylor as well. It was another Scottish teammate of ours, so it was quite nice the sort of chat on the field. But they were 2 special days. And the other one that really stands out for me was the day that I played 4 Durham players got 100 in that game. All of us using Gray Nichols, Chanda Paul, Divany2, Benkenstein, and myself, against Notts, and we won the county championship that game. Wow. Actually, and that was a pretty special day. So yeah, I've been lucky with my time in county cricket. Ebbed and flowed, and I wish I knew what I knew now. I sort of went off flying when I first started. I reckon my first 60 games I probably averaged just a touch over 40, and then I had quite a big drop from my last 30 odd. Which was disappointing for me to finish on averaging 30, but I reckon a fair assumption if I was playing the way I wanted the whole time, high 30s would have been where I felt I probably should have got to, but the game plays some crazy tricks in you, that, Sheikh.
Yeah, no, absolutely. To be honest as well, I'd imagine at times it wouldn't have been always that easy to play at Chesterley Street. I mean, it's quite north. I mean, Wicket must have had some juice in it some days compared to guys that played at the Surrey Oval or I got the pleasure of batting at the Surrey Oval for the YCs, and I got a 50 in each innings, and I don't think it would have been possible not to get a 50 in each innings because the wicket was just gold dust. Whereas I played a couple of times at Chesley Street, and it can do a bit of Chesley Street. So that's always got. I know it's not that excuses come into play, but wickets definitely play a part. I mean, we play in Scotland. It's not easy to score runs in the west of Scotland compared to playing club cricket down south. It makes a big difference. But then you things kind of filtered out of Durham. You kind of slowly seemed like you a little bit went out of favour, and you made the move to Northants, and that's where I think the public got to really see more of you, because not that only the traditional fans watch the first class cricket and know really what's going on, but the Northants team you went to Northants and you had some great T20 success where you opened the batting and you got to play in the finals day, and you were one of the leading performers in the competition.
Yeah, they were. It's funny how one door closes, another one opens. And like around that phase that it was sort of coming to a close with Durham, it was probably 2 years before it came to a close. I sort of picked up a wrist injury, which I still have to this day, and I was managing it and didn't really know what to do, and my style of cricket changed a bit. And then Ben Stokes came into the picture, where I was sat at the back of the indoor centre at Durham, and a young Ben Stokes was batting after he'd just been bowling about 80 mile an hour as a 15, 16-year-old or whatever he was when he turned up, and I just thought, I could be struggling here. Like, and about a year later, he was starting to take my place in the team. And I remember a game that he basically tore all the ligaments in his ankle, and he batted in one leg in a championship game at Durham, and he still smashed 70 because he couldn't walk, he couldn't run, so he just smashed it. And that was stuff that I just couldn't possibly do back then. Like, the way your game evolves over the years is just you're a product of your environment in many ways, as well as your determination to improve, and also you're forced to play in certain ways. And I went down to Northants, and I still had that wrist injury, which was less than ideal, and I managed it when I was down there, and I was just forced. I remember even the last 2 years at Durham, I was forced. I couldn't not play because I would lose my contract, but I couldn't get an operation because there was no time to.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were Scotland commitments in the winter, so there was no time for me to get anything done. But I just found a way to score runs. I actually scored quite a few runs. My second last game for Durham, I scored 100 in a List A one-day game. So, it's a little bit of a story. I'll try and run through it very quickly. When I was leaving Durham, Pete Steinel came to me and said, look, you can come on loan and play for us in the YB40s, I think it was called then, or CB40s.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, cool, that sounds good. And then Northants and David Capel were in touch. They said, well, why didn't you come to us on loan? And I was like, well, that's probably a more lucrative way to go. If we're going to play YB40s in a contract and offer, I should possibly keep that option open. And they kept stalling. Northants stalled. So I just went, stuff that. I'm going to go and play for Scotland. I want to play some games. Turned up for Scotland. First game was against Northants on loan. What did I do? I got 120 not out. We hammered Northants that day. Needless to say, I think a lot of them were out in Edinburgh. That was like, back then it was a bit of it's a jolly, let's go up to Scotland and play some YB40 cricket. And I think they all went out and had a bit of a good time, and we smashed them all over the place.
Yeah.
And then David Capel walked down the stairs at the ground and said, we probably should have got you on loan last week, shouldn't we? So yeah, I had a bit of a laugh with him. So then a week or so later, I was on loan away with them. We actually beat Northants and Warwickshire in 2 days there, and that 2 days with Scotland was a pretty good couple of days. I ended up playing for Northants. I ended up scoring a score over 50 for Durham, Northants, and Scotland in the same YB40 division, and scored 3 of them all against Warwickshire. Scored 50 against Warwickshire. So it was a manic time. I scored a score over 50 for 3 different teams.
Surprise Warwickshire have never shown interest, because you got your first class 100 there. You've obviously had a lot of success against them. It's surprising they've never chapped your door. But obviously then the T20 success with Northants. That was a special time for you.
Yeah, very special. My career has been filled with ways that I've surprised myself how I can play and how effective I can be, because I genuinely thought my career was almost over when I was going to Northants, and I didn't feel as good a one-day player as I could have been then. But a product of your environment, I was forced to find a way, and I was given an opportunity there. And I give that, so much thanks to Northants for giving me some opportunities, and I opened the batting. And I ended up, I was like 5th or 6th in the country that year in T10.
Yeah, no, you were. It was a proper. I guess it leads me to my next question. Why did they let you go?
I think there were some financial issues there at Northants. Alex Wakely got injured the year before, and I was actually asked to captain. And I would probably say there weren't maybe as many people that, they maybe tried to pick someone who might grow into being a captain. And I don't think I was ready to be a captain. I was already I was captain Scotland already at this point, I think. But it's only by failing that you learn things. And I still wasn't ready to be a captain. My leadership skills weren't up to scratch. I didn't appreciate what it was all about. And I was a bit on the fence whether I should do it. And I thought, because I was still felt intimidated by, because like I said, my whole career, I never really felt I was good enough. And even there, I was asked to be captain. I was properly on the fence with it. I was just doing all right with the bat. And then a year later, after being captain, there was financial issues, and they asked a handful of us to leave. And I still had a year in my contract. So that was, they said, look, you can go and find another place to play. So that was tricky, but I stayed on, and I actually went away at the 2015 World Cup in that time and did pretty well. And I actually scored a couple of big scores, and they did let me play a game or two the next year, but it was only simply because everyone was injured. But yeah, look, I still look at fond memories. I had some great times.
Because I mean, great. Again, though, I'm surprised at that point you never got picked up by somebody else, because you were probably in that kind of. I mean, I would say the absolute twilight of your career is around that period of time. I mean, you've talked about obviously some great first class days you had with Durham, but you've also been honest and said that you probably could have done better. Yeah. You could have averaged 40 rather than 30. But from 2015, that's now where we're going to lead into talking about Scotland. It all goes back to a bit of a scandal. I only know about I seen the article, and I don't know what went on behind closed doors, but you were left out of the Scotland team. And the story was that, we want to look after your county career or something along those lines. What went down around that point? Because I know you tweeted as well saying that you were really disappointed to be left out of the side. What's your thoughts on that time?
Yeah, they were crazy times, actually. I remember I was walking up to bat at York Cricket Club for it would have been a second team game for Northants, and I was just like, my mind was racing. And that never happens to me when I go in the cricket field. When I go in the cricket field, I cross the rope and I walk in and I compete, and then I come off, and if there's any issues, I deal with them. But that was the first day I ever dragged something onto the field like I was properly like, what's going on here? And I think there's two things. One maybe, my T20 stats up until that point were probably only okay, but the type of person I was I always played the role that I was asked to play, and and probably my best place to play in T20 cricket was to open the batting, and I never had opened the batting to that point. And so I was doing a role which, a team thing, trying to perform as well as I could. And my stats probably didn't show what I was capable of at the time. And Grant Bradburn came in as coach, and not long after that, he relieved me of captaincy, and he took he left me out the squad. And look, he's trying to refresh things as well, and sometimes
why did he leave you at the squad, Kyle? Did you guys have a bit of a ding dong behind closed doors that took place? Was this
I would say any ding dong happened after he left me out of the squad. Actually, we, I think, I think, you know, I've never properly asked him about it yet, but there's a couple of thoughts in my mind. But he he probably felt that the team a bit of a change. He was also concerned. I genuinely think he was a little concerned about my county contract at the time as well. But maybe the two of us didn't communicate that very well, because as much as I was maybe leaving Northants, I was told to leave and I was trying to find other places to go. All I actually wanted to do was play cricket for Scotland, because as far in my eyes, that's the most passionate cricket that I can play. And the players around you, you know what it's like playing for your country. You pull that shirt and it means so much. And when you play county cricket, I'm not saying that doesn't mean as much to other players, but there's certainly quite a few that, you know, play it because they're just good at it, and one game just rolls into the next, and there's a paycheck at the end of it. You know, granted, not very much in comparison to other sports, but I didn't feel the love all the time, especially when I left Durham. We were a really close-knit team at Durham, and we got that at Northants as well. But for me, the ultimate's always sort of been playing for Scotland, and no disrespect to any of those teams, because I had some of the best times of my life at both of those teams. But when you pull on the national shirt, Shaky, you know, you could ask anyone in our situation, you pull on that shirt, it's just, wow, this is special. And I was so gutted to be missing out, because
I think the other thing would have been, you're obviously talking about feeling good about yourself and feeling loved, and you know, you were part of a real family at Durham. You probably had great times at Northants, but it doesn't quite sound like it was quite as tight. But whenever you came back to Scotland, you were obviously welcomed with open arms. It was always a pleasure to have Kyle Coetzer back home and playing in the Scotland team. So I remember one of my last fondest memories of getting to play with you was going to Kenya, and you'd come back in for an I Cup game, and you know, just having you around kind of picked up the morale that, you know, we were, and that is actually brings me to my next story, where all of a sudden your bowling career rejuvenated, because we were bowling on a flat wicket. I mean, we rolled Kenya in the first innings. We got a good lead in this when we batted, and then we were bowling on that third day's play on the hottest day in the world in Nairobi. We were getting nowhere. Like Odombe and Tickolo were just batting away, and Drummo chucked the ball to you, and then you just, and then I think you went on to then bowl a bit in that T20 qualifier that came after that. And you went on to bowl a bit more again after that for Scotland. But I mean, that was like, it'd been years since anyone had seen you bowl, and it just clicked that day on that third day's play. I think you got 2 or 3 wickets maybe. Do you remember that? Do you remember that day?
I remember that. I've actually been searching for that video for a little bit of time. So if anyone knows how to get hold of that video, that's something that, it's just absolute pure gold. When I ran up, I ran into bowl. I tried to bowl a length ball like I do every single time, and I just anti-skilled it, and I bowled a Yorker, and it bowled the guy, and off we went, didn't we? My shirt nearly came off.
Yeah, you went. And you said you're not much of a celebrator, but when you got that first wicket, you went. It was like you went on that. We just all chased you, but that was a long toil in the field that day. Actually, you talk about videos. You might be able to help me, being the Scotland captain and all that. I was told, I was trying to get hold of some of the footage. Juddy made me a video a couple of years ago of my 100 against Kenya and Ireland, and just some footage of Namibia and stuff as well. And I was told to contact a chap called Toby Bailey. I have sent Toby a couple of emails a couple of years ago. I've never heard back from him. So maybe you could have a word with Toby and see if you could pull something out for me, just to show the grandkids that once upon a time I played for my country and I did all right. That would be much appreciated, because I know I'm maybe not high profile these days, and maybe, but he never did get back to me. I'm pretty sure the email address was the right address, Kyle.
Well, I'll chase that up. I'll chase that up with Toby. What I do know is I think a lot of it's stored in a hard drive that's stored away from back in those days. So getting access to that, especially right now, is pretty tricky. So
yeah, no, I wouldn't expect just now.
But I'll try and chase it up, because I want to chase up a video myself. That celebration's got to be.
Yeah, that celebration would be it. I'd love to see a tweet of that celebration, because you went in your merry-go-round, and that was a great tour. We had a great victory. Every single time we stepped out of the Hilton, we thought we were going to get killed. It was quite an intense place, but great memories, great victory, and that was another tour that I fondly remember playing with you. So then, yeah, you played for Scotland in the World Cup, and that leads me into another famous moment in your cricketing career, catching Mark Boucher on the boundary line. You had no right catching that. Must have just been sheer instinct?
Yeah, look, I think everyone probably knows, or most people probably know that, you know, I'm maybe not the top end of the spectrum in terms of fielding abilities, and it seems to be certainly going backwards now that my agility is getting worse and worse. But I do pride myself on trying really hard in the field, and there I have little glimpses of good moments. But that day, you know, I was terrified on the boundary at the Oval, and a pretty decent crowd playing against South Africa. And the over before, whoever hit it, and I came charging in, because at the Oval you got the main pavilion, which is so high that it's hard to pick the ball up until it actually goes into the sky. Mm-hmm. So I saw this ball get hit at me, and I ran in, and it all of a sudden it went right over my head. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I thought, all right, okay, I won't do that. Next over, Dromo balls a beautifully inaccurate Yorker, which was perfectly on a full of a length to get smacked out the ground. And again, same thing. I saw the shape of the shot. That's what you go on as a cricketer, and I started charging in because it hasn't come above the building yet. So I thought it must be in front of me. And all of a sudden, I just started thinking, oh no, what have I done here? And so I was probably 7, 8, 9 yards off the line by this point. And I thought, oh God. I just started backpedaling, and I just stuck up an arm. I think everyone who saw me catch it was completely amazed. All my teammates must have got.
Yeah, because I've seen a few pictures of the crowd behind, and people were like, I mean, I had a bit of Michael Jordan about it, because you got so really you screwed it up. That's what you said.
I screwed it up. I screwed it up, Shaky, and everyone of my teammates at Durham at the time were just like, "How did you manage to catch that? You would never have normally caught that, you know." And I completely and utterly screwed it up, and since that day, everyone thought I was a reasonable fielder. So there we go. All you have to do is miss time one, Shaky.
You should have a picture of that in your house, surely. That's a memorable one. Do you have a picture of that?
Yeah, in my mum's got a big picture of it blown up in the house, and it's something that that's one of the lasting memories of my career, playing against South Africa, which is not my country of birth. I was born in Scotland, but my family's country of birth. Standing in a line, looking at my parents up in the crowd, and the South Africans were singing the national anthem, and then we were singing ours, and I was thinking, which one are my parents going to sing? But and then actually played against some of my heroes in that game. So I managed to hit a few sixes. I got 30 odd, I think, in that game, and quite fast, short number of balls. But then I took that ridiculous catch, which probably doesn't really reflect my fielding, but I'm taking it.
Take it all day long. So if you've not heard it here before, that Coetzer actually messed that catch up and took one of the greatest catches. It still pops up as one of the best catches. I've seen it in a few different videos. So that was another. So really, that World Cup kind of announced you as an opening batsman, international opening batsman. Because you're right. Up until then, I never had you penciled. I never had you penciled down as an opening batsman. You'd always kind of batted 3 or 4 in the ODI format. But yeah, Scotland took a punt with you after initially maybe not selecting you. They made the right decision to bring you back in, and you kind of got a good first exposure of playing in the T20 World Cup. It's funny. I went to the T20 World Cup before that. You weren't on that World Cup, were you?
No. So I might have got a little confused because I wasn't picked for the World Cup before, and it was Pete Drinnan who was the coach, and there was a time where I didn't get picked, and when Grant Bradburn came in, so there was sort of two elements to it. But Pete Drinnan didn't pick me for the World Cup, and I was still young. But you said, I think you went to it, and
I went to the T20. It wasn't actually. It ended up being Pete Steindl and Andy Tennant that took us out to that World Cup. But again, I'm surprised that you weren't on that trip. But again, it was weird back then. You were kind of seen very much more as, well, Kyle Coetzer plays county cricket. He doesn't really play for Scotland very. It was few and far between when you did play. But that's where it seemed to all change, because from 2015 onwards, I've seen you play some phenomenal cricket, and I don't want to go. You've now played so much cricket for Scotland, but I want to touch on kind of your highlights. And there's no bigger highlight. I was in Pakistan at the time. I was staying in an army reserves place. A friend of mine had got his accommodation in Islamabad at an army kind of unit place. So I arrived there, and I'd said when we had got there, look, Scotland are playing a World Cup against Bangladesh today. We need to get the match on, and the electricity needs to stay on. So they had organised to get a generator so the TV wouldn't go off. And I witnessed you score 156 against Bangladesh. And honestly, I was overjoyed. First of all, childhood friend, somebody I've always been fond of, somebody I knew was a great player. Did I know you were that good? Until then, I'd never seen you do anything like that on a cricket field. How special a feeling was that day?
Yeah, that day was actually the first 100 my mum ever saw me score. She'd never been to games that I'd scored 100. She'd seen me score runs, but that was actually the first game she witnessed me scoring 100.
Good choice, Megan. You made a good decision to go to the ground that day.
But let's just wind it back just a little bit, and where I think I started developing really to that level as a player was back in a controversial moment when Grant Bradburn left me out of the squad, and I put a lot of that down to Grant firstly challenging a couple of people, and I think he saw more in me, and he saw more in a couple of players, and over the years he did challenge a couple of guys, and I was probably one of the first, because at the time I was captain at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought out another side of my game, completely brought out another side of my game, and he forced me to believe in my own game. Go out and do it. And I put that down to genius coaching. I've been fortunate with the coaches I've had over the years, and every one of them have played a part in my career and got Scotland to where they are today. But that little mental part of the game, belief, Grant was the one that ticked that box for me and made me into the player that I became from 2015 onwards, just that little bit better. And I can't thank him enough for that, because he's taught me something that I can now pass on through the years, and not just by challenging people, but that was the way he needed to do it, and he did it, and he made us into the team that we were, and we're in a really good place now with Shane Berger as well, moving on.
Yeah,
sorry. I went off.
Yeah, no, we'll come back to you. We're going to still talk about your special knock that day. But I actually tweeted a couple of days ago. You might have seen my tweet where I actually said that Scottish cricket changed under Grant Bradburn. Obviously, all the coaches prior to that, I'd got to work with them myself. Your Andy Moles, Peter Dredden, Pete Steindl. Probably the most influential coach I worked with was an Adrian Birrell, who it was only for 1 month, and he had we all know what he achieved with Irish cricket. But Grant Bradburn is somebody I never got to work with, and he seems to be the one that instilled the confidence in you boys to believe that you can beat the big test playing nations, and something just changed. And you've obviously just highlighted it right there, that it's just a little mindset change to challenge you as Scotland's leading batsman. To just say, let's take the captaincy off you, might have been a blessing in disguise. At the time, I bet you probably felt a bit hard done by. You're obviously very proud leader of your country. But Preston Momsen came in and probably did quite a good job, and it seems to just allowed you to free up where you didn't have to think about all the kind of outside noise. And that day you scored 156, and just obviously great to know that your mum Megan was there watching it. What a special day for the family. But I mean, you were hitting the ball clean, like every single over extra cover. I remember well the left arm spinners for Bangladesh, and you were just opening it up and hitting over extra, and the timing was incredible. What's your memories? Did it just click that day?
Yeah, I struggled at the start of that innings. I couldn't get it away, and then once I actually Shakib Al Sanbul, I thought, right, I need to try and get on top of him here. He's a quality bowler, and
Yeah.
I thought, right, I'm going to run down here and try and get him away, push the fielders back. I ran down and then played a slog sweep. I don't know what happened, but and it landed on the rope, so I got 6 for it. And from that point on, things started to click for me, and I started manipulating the field and think, right, he's doing that, so the bowler's going to try and bowl it here. And that was almost when I started thinking about my game at quite a ripe age as a player. Started thinking about my game even more, and realizing what they're trying to bowl at me rather than just playing, and everything just clicked. I almost felt as if I knew where they were trying to bowl. So
it looked like that.
Yeah, and
it looked like that. I mean, what over did you get out in?
I think I got out with about 7 overs to go.
Yeah, that's what I remember. You could have got a double. You could have got a double ODI 100. You needed that umpire. What was his name? You needed him to say, "Listen, mate, you
I needed honestly to come back."
Yeah, you won't get every day. You get a double 100 in an ODI World Cup match, because I remember that you were just flying. You were in a different world to everybody else. And you know, I bet you should definitely show the grandkids that one day, because that really was. I mean, I would say, in my opinion, the 2 greatest knocks for Scotland have been your 156 and Callum McLeod's innings against England. Both just so special in their own rights, but yours being on a World Cup was such a high-profile game. But I suppose any 100 against England to beat the old enemies are equally just as special. But I mean, those 2 innings, I watched both of them ball for ball, and they were special. You also had a really good knock against England. It was unfortunate you didn't go on.
Yeah, the shot I'd played quite well previously in the tournament. I was trying to come down to the off spinner and try and sort of chip him wide of mid on, and I ended up just lobbing it down long on's throat in the end. But I was on 70 at the time, and even I don't think then I really appreciated. Look, I could have got 100 against these guys. You need someone to just say something to you and just keep you going. But I felt under pressure to keep moving the scoreboard along. The highlights of that game came on the TV about a week ago. It was probably the first time I've ever watched the full highlights of that game. I'd never watched a highlights of the England game, in Christchurch, and I didn't realise that we were on 70 or something. And I was on 50.
Yeah, you were on course. I mean, I was watching the game live, and we were chasing 290, 300, 290. So it was very gettable, and commentators midway were even saying, you know, if the likes of Coetzer get going, you never know what can happen here, and you got going. And I do think, if somebody had maybe just been able to get in your ear, a drink had been brought out at that point and just said, listen, just stay here for another 5 to 10 overs. But the adrenaline kicks in, I'd imagine. I mean, I've never been in a situation like that in a World Cup game against England, flying the way you were flying at the time, so I can't comment, but I'd imagine the adrenaline had just set in and you were just thinking, I can just keep going here. But when you got out, it pretty much, we think the game kind of died, and it's died a death after that. Scotland were never really in contention, and if you look back and you want to be really critical, if you had been able to maybe stay at the wicket and get your 100, maybe got on to 110, 120, and the likes of Momsen and Ritchie and these guys played their games around you, I think we would have been close.
The good old saying is, you've always got more time than you think. And I remember Grant Bradburn telling me that when we came off, and he said, Kyle, you've missed out there. We had more time. You could have got us a lot closer before you felt you needed to go. Because I started feeling I needed to go a bit, go hard a bit, a bit earlier and try and take down the bowlers. But look, it didn't happen. One lasting memory I do have of that game is myself and, for whatever reason, myself and Jimmy Anderson have never really gotten overly well over the years. I don't think either of us hold a grudge against each other. Maybe just got on the wrong side of each other on the field. And I do remember opened the batting for Northants, and first game of the season, brand new pitch, first day of the county championship, he nicked me off straight to Joss Butler behind, straight in, bang, out, dropped. Okay, so I went on to get 20. I probably went through the slips 3 or 4 times, and he then nicked me off eventually and ran past and shoulder barged me on the way past. And to be honest, was idiot, basically, to say it the nicer way. And we then played England in Aberdeen. 3 weeks later, the earliest game in Scotland we'd ever played in Aberdeen.
Yeah.
And I was on single figures. He nicked me off again. Who did it go to? Straight to Joss Butler. Shelled it like twice. And he had like a reasonable celebration again when he did eventually get me out. So when I actually turned up to play them in Christchurch, all I wanted to do was try and smash Jimmy Anderson. That's all I wanted to do when I go in that game. And I anti-skilled a few. By anti-skill, I mean I tried to hit the ball somewhere, but it went somewhere else. You know, one of those that in the commentators go, "Oh, great!"
I'm sure you hit him over mid off, and you hit him through extra. If I remember correctly, you don't know. You hit some. Don't put yourself down there. You played some fine shots in that innings, and like you say, we were flying. Scotland were flying at that point, and it's unfortunate you never went out, because if that would have been special, if we turned England over at a World Cup, that would have been something to really, really, really boast about. But who cares? I mean, what we went on to do. I mean, that'll bring me to the next big landmark in your career as a captain of Scotland at the Grange, Edinburgh. You captained Scotland in one of the game that will go down in history, I think, of one of the greatest, not only one of Scotland's greatest ever victories, but one of the best ODI games in history as well. I mean, it was box office, flat wicket, sun was out for once, no doubt about any rain coming. And I'll never forget, it was just the mindset again, the way that you and Matthew Cross went out to open the batting for Scotland. And I remember you hitting Plunkett over long off for 6. And you were just cross off the back foot, punching the ball through the covers. And we got off to an absolute flyer. What was that planned? Was it planned to go out and play aggressive cricket?
The planning for this game probably went a year back. So, and I'm sure it probably maybe even went further back for the coaching staff. But Grant Bradburn sat us down in Dundee before an MCC game, and he said, "Look, lads, we can take the straight road or we can take the windy road. Mm-hmm. The straight road is just easy, and you'll get there, no challenges, whatever. You can take the windy road. It'll be tougher. It'll take you longer, but when you get there, it'll be far more satisfying. And you'll have achieved a lot more on your way there." But he says, "One day we will beat England. Why can't it be now?" And that was what we rolled with for the rest of the year. We rolled and rolled and rolled with that, and we were preparing for that England game the whole time. And what we learned along that journey was, for us to beat England and let's say the top nations in the world, we have to play a style of cricket that's going to give us that chance. And that style of cricket was what you saw against England in that day. That was a style of cricket that we were building ourselves up to play. And we played it against Sri Lanka previous to that.
Yeah.
And we played it against Zimbabwe previous to that. And there was a huge build-up along the way. And we believed that we have to play that style of cricket. And that was what we still promote to this day. We understand that we've got to play that style and be willing to try and get 320. If you don't get 300 in an ODI these days, you often don't stand a huge chance. So that's what we did. And all me and Crossy tried to do, and we won the toss and we went out to bat. It was look, let's go and let's do what we've all spoken about and have the confidence to do it that been instilled in us. So really, really, really special. That the day wasn't just for us; it was for you, for everyone else who was playing.
Yeah, I think
Scotland, everyone who watched the game, supported us. All the everything come to that point.
Yeah, no, you inspired, and you gave back. You boys of the 11 players that took the park gave back a hell of a lot that day to Scottish cricket, and the fact that the sun was out, it was at the Grange. You couldn't write the script any better. But we'll then just talk about. I mean, hopefully I'll get him on at some point to talk about the knock. But yeah, Callum McLeod, gobby little shit, played against him when he was at Drumpellier. Him and his brother just to wind me up with Gaelic behind the. Just I never used to understand. I never really rated Callum that much as a bowler, if I'm being honest. Obviously had a bit of a dubious action that eventually got called, and his bowling career went out the window. And it was in South Africa actually. I roomed with you, Kyle, for 7 weeks while I was a drinks carrier in South Africa. Under Ryan Watson's captaincy.
You never opened the curtains once.
I look back now. I think I was depressed. I genuinely think I was depressed. The Lizard was very depressed on that tour. I was getting angrier and angrier daily. I was just getting up to no good eventually, and it's not a tour that I look back on very fondly. But I still had some great memories with the likes of yourself, Callum, Navdeep Punia, Maggie. But yeah, Callum started hitting balls in the nets on that tour. Because obviously his bowling was coming. He was still bowling at that point. I think his bowling career came to an end against Oman when a guy hit him 2 or 3 miles up this, like a long way.
Hit the floodlight, didn't it?
Hit the floodlight. That's right. It was huge. It still was rising when it hit the floodlight. But Callum started hitting the ball in the nets, and I remember thinking. I mean, he was trying to kind of go about the kind of KP kind of style at that point. He was trying to do all. Definitely trying to copy a KP style, and he was hitting the ball clean, and he was. But I just kept thinking, a net player. I've seen many of these guys. They smoke the ball in the nets, and what he's went on to become, and I think it's a sheer sign of dedication that he's shown because he would never miss a training session. He would always be dedicated to his craft, and what he did that day against England was just unbelievable. Like he played every. I mean, you got out to. I'll never forget you. Adil Rashid kind of pulled the game back and got you out. Kind of bamboozled you a little bit when you were kind of. I think were you on 60, 70 at that point? 60 odd at that point, and Adil got you out, and you feared at that point that he might be the trickery here that confuses the Scottish batsman. And Callum just came out and just started getting down on the one knee. 6. And it changed the game because when he blasted Adil Rashid out of the attack, England had nothing else to really answer with. The seamers were not so effective on an absolute flat wicket. And when he dealt with Adil Rashid, that kind of then really started giving the hope that we could get something really big here. And then Callum just kept going. And then the batters just, Munsey came in and got 50. Which, another really talented batsman that's coming through for Scottish cricket. And another thing that I'll never forget that day, and it just showed where Scottish cricket was at, because you'd never have dreamt of doing this 10 years before. Michael Least came out to bat. A fellow Stonywood Dice came from the same club as yourself. And the first ball he faced off Mark Wood, he hit it for 6. I remember he even ran down the wicket and kind of tapped it. He had that face on him like, bloody hell. What have I done there? Like, that's bloody hell. But that was, again, just something that you'd never seen. Normally, you'd be going out to play for Scotland against England and think, right, first 10 balls here, right, just try and survive here and get in. Or let's try and get 220, 230 and be in a game here. But the mindset was so different that day, and you must have been very proud as a captain to watch all your teammates. But talk to me about what your thoughts on Callum's knock were.
Yeah, that's probably. It was one of the finest knocks ever by any Scottish batsman. Only the one that he played again against Afghanistan's gonna, knock it off its perch. Really, probably the one against Afghanistan was possibly even better in Bulawayo, in the World Cup qualifiers. But the planning that went into that game was about how we need to continue to keep scoring in the middle overs, finding boundaries throughout the game to be able to reach a 320 plus score. And that was an area that we focused so much on with our team. So if you look through our team, every single one of the players plays a hard sweep, paddle sweep, reverse sweep, switch hit almost. And Callum had them all. And that was what we focused on so much. The middle overs, because guys had skills to take guys down maybe at the top, and guys can hit boundaries at the end. But in the middle overs, you have to be able to find boundaries, and this sweep was a massive shot that we paid attention to. And Callum, being a hockey player, just, he plays that for fun anyway. So, yeah, it was pretty special.
Hi, Sarah.
A very special. Yeah, Sarah's this run pass. A very special knock, and he's going to play a few for Scotland. But mate, an amazing day. The way the guys took the guys down, and the way Watty had the flight and guile to chance it against Moeen when he was looking like he was chasing scoring.
Well, I was going to come to the second innings. I mean, you were probably going to lose. Moeen Ali had a bit of a brain explosion. Didn't really probably have to do that. They were pretty much, I mean, Bairstow and the way Bairstow and Roy came out, am I right? It was Bairstow and Roy,
yeah.
wasn't it?
Yeah.
The way they came out, I mean, more Bairstow, like he was in a different world, like, and he took, you got thrown a bone because Watt got the first wicket as well.
Yeah.
And that kind of threw you a bone to kind of get somewhere in it, and then England had some brain explosions. Hales ran out Joe Root, and Hales cut one to Ali Evans at point, and then you started believing again. But then England, Moeen Ali and Plunkett as well, they started looking dangerous. But yeah,
look, the obviously the batting massively fired in that day, and the bowling. I think we actually bowled pretty well. The way Bairstow and these guys played was just, sometimes you got to hold your hands up a little bit. But what stands out to me is the handling of the pressure on the day. So the couple of runouts we had, the throws were right over the top. The guys who were taking that, Michael Leask got a run out from the boundary.
Brilliant.
And he also took the ball above the stumps for another one. So the throwing, the running and collecting, throwing and collecting above the stumps was perfect. So if you look back, next time you look back, look at Michael's collection on the one run out where he takes it from in front of the stumps and knocks the bails off. So he's continuing on the momentum. Look at that. We practiced that so much leading up to those games, and to see those things come out, like they're just the simple handling of the pressure.
Well, you think if, there was very fine lines that day. I mean, if those opportunities hadn't been taken, you probably were not going to win that game of cricket. And then it all, obviously, Safian Sharif, Yorker at the end. It was almost like a Shoaib Akhtar moment. Growing up watching Shoaib Akhtar bowl Yorkers and just running, and the crowd and the atmosphere. I mean, looking on. I always wanted to play for my country. I always wanted to be part of those type of moments. That's what we all strive as cricketers. But I was emotional. It was so emotional to watch. I've never been so happy. I watched the whole game on my TV, and as it was getting to those nail-biting moments, and when Safi got Wood out with a Yorker at the end, I was, my son was with me at that point, Harris, and we were going mental, because I think he was worried. He was worried about his dad and thinking, "What, Dad, you all right?" Because he's not. He hadn't really been a part of. He hadn't been around when I was playing for Scotland. He only would know what he'd heard about. So he didn't understand the passion that was there. Seeing so many guys that you've grown up with, playing cricket with, still play cricket with as well. Friends of yours who have just turned over England at the Grange on Sky Sports. Hats off to you, Skipper. That was a special time.
Shaky, the celebrations when Safi took that last wicket they're just undescribable. Honestly, the pitch invasion and the people running on.
Everyone was hugging everyone because you look on camera and there's like random fans that have come on, and it was just like Michael Leask got grabbed, I think, on the footage, and then he just hugs a random. Normally you'd be like, well, but I don't think anybody cared. I think everyone was just living the moment.
I remember running and grabbing a stump, because that's something I've never done before. I've never got a stump from any of the trophies that I'd won in the past. And I thought, you know what, I'm getting a stump. I ran and got a stump. And then I took 2 steps away and I thought, I better grab one for Callum, because he needed a stump after the way he played.
Yeah.
And I turned around and someone with no top on had grabbed the stump. And I was like, You're going to have to give me that.
Yeah.
I'm having that stump. Thank you very much.
So did they oblige?
And went off, but yeah,
You're lucky.
that thing.
You're lucky because I know from like when the Pakistani fans take the field, I don't think they would have obliged to give you a stump back. If you get a stump back in the day of, when pitch invasion still took place, if you got hold of a stump, you're not giving that stump back. You're holding on to that. So you must have asked pretty well mannered to get that stump back. Amazing, Kyle. Amazing. We've gone down. I've still got some quick fire questions to finish off with. But I mean, we've covered so much. We've talked about how we know each other, talked about junior cricket, talked about your county career, talked about your international career, some of your greatest achievements, some low moments as well that you faced in your career along the way, which every sportsman, it's not always, it's good to hear, because hopefully the young generation will watch this podcast and will learn from you and know that it's not always fun. I mean, Scottish cricket went through a lot of getting the crap kicked out of them before we got to get in achieving these kind of heights of beating England. And I think now what needs to happen is that we go on from that. And next opportunity we get at a World Cup or something, now's the time that we take some more scalps down and we do what kind of Ireland cricket have achieved.
Yeah.
Which I think Scotland have not quite done at a World Cup yet. But I think we are now at the point where we're ready to do that. So I wish you and your team all the best moving forward. I think you're still looking at you on camera. You're still looking fit. So, you've got a couple of years left in you yet to lead the team. And I think that will be important to bring on the next guy who takes charge. But I'm sure there's going to be plenty of candidates now, because you've had some really special memories together, the current core of players. Right, okay. Some fun to finish with, Kyle. Some quick fire questions. First question is, your favourite county teammate?
Wow, there's lots. Oh, how can you pick one of them? Because I'll get stick from whoever I don't pick. So, I'll give you two. I'll give you one and a backup guy. Okay. No. I'll go with one. And the reason I'm picking this one person, was because of the dance that he did on social media about 2 weeks ago. Was Mark Wood. If you have a watch the dance,
I've not seen it. I've not seen it. I need to check it out.
He did a dance routine in his back garden. If you just have a watch of that, he's an absolute hoot. So much fun. Look, I've got so many good friends, but he's one that was just made me laugh the whole way.
Seems like
Neil McCallum. Neil McCallum wasn't a county cricketer, but he was another one that was up there.
Well, that was my next question. So, your favourite national teammate?
Yeah, if it comes to comedy, Neil McCallum, it's almost impossible to beat him. He's one of the funniest guys I've ever met. He's the maddest. The wristwatch comes out in the Bulldog every now and then.
My memory of Neil McCallum, good memory of Neil McCallum was when we were in Canada, and he had the mannequin outfit, and we were on the rooftop balcony. We just arrived and we've gone to the rooftop balcony in Canada. I'm sure there was a few mothers and children kicking about, and Macca came up with a full white robe on, whipped it off, and bomb dived into the middle of the pool. The mannequin, and he's got a massive backside. So it was there for everybody to see, and you would never have thought that boy's a school teacher at Watson's. You would a PE teacher at Watson's. You would never ever think Neil McCallum was a school teacher if you toured with him, because he was a very funny man. The best you've ever played with?
Wow. At the time when I was batting with Shivnarine Chandapal, that was different gravy. Honestly, that guy, I think he got something stupid like 700s that season, and he didn't even play all the games. He would. I remember the way he trained. He would have a bowling machine on as fast as it could go, and as much swing in one direction you could go, and you'd have two buckets like that, just going, and then he'd turn the swing around the other way, and then you just walk out. But yeah, he was incredible, Chandapal. To
think how good Brian Lara would have been then.
Yeah.
that's scary, because I mean Chandapal, had a great career, but he was a second fiddle to Brian Lara. So it's scary when you think, how good that level would be.
Both number one in the world at some at one point.
Yeah, unbelievable players. Best player you played against?
Wow, I could reel a whole lot off. Shane Warne was I managed to play against him a few times.
You smoked him. I'm sure you got hold of Warne a couple of times in the T20.
Yeah, pretty sure he also got me out a couple of times over the years. But,
okay. Well, that's nothing to be ashamed of. But as long as you got hold of him a couple of times, that's something to definitely to tell the grandkids as well.
I think when I played against Shane Warne, he had that operation, so he was maybe minus the all the amount of spin that he could normally put on the ball. But Shane Warne was amazing, and as a batsman, probably Kumar Sangakkara, which I had two moments with Kumar when we played against him. One playing against Northants, and I accidentally bumped him out. So I actually got him in the back pocket, and caught maybe by your friend Chad Barrett. I'm not sure if he's at the MCCYCs then.
Chad Barrett, no, not something. Maybe not maybe at my time. Probably after my time or before.
And then in the World Cup, I can't remember whether he's got the record. He either scored 300s in a row in consecutive games in the World Cup, or it was 4. I can't remember.
No, he's a class.
But I bowled him. I bowled a lovely wide half volley at Hobart for him to get his 3rd or 4th 100 in a row, which he thanked me for at breakfast the next morning.
Wow. Well, you know, I actually responded to a tweet that Michael Lees put out today. I'm looking forward to watching this episode on Sky Sports tonight of the Safian and Michael's MCC tour to Pakistan. But it'll be interesting if he obliges to come on and have a chat with me, old Leesky. It'll be interesting to hear his thoughts on Kumar Sangakkara, because I'd imagine he would have learned a lot from him in that short period of time, because he's the ultimate professional, and I'm not surprised that you've picked him. My next question is, who's the most annoying teammate you've ever played with?
There's so many. Wicket keepers tend to be one of those, don't they? They always got smelly hands.
Yeah, smelly hands.
David Murphy is a great friend of mine, and I was speaking to him just before we came on. But we had to tape off. We'd tape on the floor in the dressing room in Northants, and none of his equipment was allowed to leave that space because it smelled so bad.
Oh my God!
So in terms of that, yeah, maybe David Murphy. He's such a good guy, but his kit absolutely stunk.
And what about the legend at Durham? Was it Colonel they call him? he must have been a bit of a character to play with.
Yeah, but some player as well. He can still play, you know. But
he had a purple patch when he opened the back for England for a little while, and then it didn't. What's his name?
Philip Mustard.
Philip Mustard. What a guy! He looked like he was a bit of a character.
He was involved in my whole career, really. When Scotland first beat Durham as a junior side, I think we were under 13s or 15s or something like that at Fettes, and Colonel was behind the stumps, and I just remember thinking, who the hell is this guy? Like, he never shut up. Yeah. Mad as anything. But I think he wasn't maybe as clean cut as some people when you're trying to make your international career, and unfortunately maybe that was his downfall. But he could certainly play. Yeah, no, absolutely. No, he doesn't look like he would have been the ultimate professional around a certain English coach. I can imagine he would have went on a few late nights and probably ruffled up a few feathers. But there's nothing wrong with that. We only live once. That pretty much brings us to the end of this episode, and it's been a really enjoyable one, because it's been a long time since I've had the opportunity to talk to you like this. You know, you're a very high-profile man, Kyle, MBE and all that now. You know, it's you need to book. I had to go through an agent to get. For those who don't know, I had to go through an agent to get this time with you. But you've been box office, mate. You've spoken very open and honestly. I'd really appreciate if you can retweet and give me some support with all of this. It's something that I'm very passionate about. I probably could have been more dedicated to my own cricket career. I may have achieved bigger heights. So with my media career,
in my podcasting world, I want to be really passionate about it, and your support would be much appreciated. But tomorrow, I will be recording with another Scottish legend, Gavin Hamilton. So I'm looking forward to speaking to him. But again, thank you very much. Please pass my best wishes on to your mum and dad, and to your good lady who was seen in the background there. Love to the kids as well. And hopefully at the back end of all this, I will catch up with you at some point, Kyle.
Jakey, thank you very much. Just last piece for me, you know, like we appreciate all the support we get from people like you who are trying to promote the Scottish game, and all the year and the people have got us to where we are, so we really appreciate that. It's bright, got some amazing cricketers. Shane Berger and Grant Morgan, the coaches in place right now, have really rallied the team together and got us working really hard, albeit we haven't done anything for the last six or 7 weeks. But want everyone to try and stay safe during this time. The NHS and all the workers are key workers doing an amazing job, and look, everyone just needs to stay at home and stay safe, and listen to the guidelines. Otherwise we'll be stuck like this for a long time yet. And my final thing, Shaky, other than thanking you, is Harris, if you ever listen to this, your dad was a good cricketer, so there we go. You can believe every word. You can believe every word he says.
I appreciate that, Kyle. Appreciate that. Well, listen, you take care, and this will be up in a couple of weeks' time. Look forward to seeing it.
Okay, cheers, Shaky. Nice to speak to you.
Take care, Kyle.
Cheers. Bye.